Zelensky wants war to end this year. President Zelensky said he wanted to receive solid security guarantees from Western partners to end the war with Russia in 2025. Ukraine wants security guarantees this year. Because we want to end the war in 2025. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said at a press conference in Kiev on February 19. He also said that the administration of US President Donald Trump had helped Russian President Vladimir Putin end 3 years of Western isolation, with a phone call and negotiations in Saudi Arabia. All this has had no positive impact on Ukraine. He added, referring to President Trump's claim that Ukraine's leaders' approval rating was only 4% and calling for new elections in the country. Zelensky said that the head of the White House was living in Russia's disinformation space, accusing Moscow of misleading Trump. When we talk about the 4%, we immediately understand that this is disinformation coming from Russia. There is a disinformation bubble around President Trump, Zelensky said. A telephone poll of 1,000 people conducted by the Kiev International Institute of Sociology and published on February 19 showed that 57% of respondents trust Zelensky, 37% do not trust him, and the rest are undecided. The Ukrainian president said he would show the polls to Trump's team because it is important for us to convey the truth to the new US administration. Last week, Trump sent Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent to Kiev to discuss a deal on access to Ukraine's natural resources. During a press conference, President Zelensky said he did not sign the deal because it did not provide any guarantees in exchange. I defend Ukraine and cannot sell our country, he stressed. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov held talks for 4.5 hours in Saudi Arabia on February 18, marking the first formal high-level meeting between the two countries since the Russia-Ukraine war broke out in February 2022. Russia said the two sides had listened to each other and believed the US had a better understanding of its position. Mr. Lavrov said Russia opposed any NATO member sending troops to Ukraine within the framework of the ceasefire, calling this unacceptable. Mr. Rubio said the US was aiming for a fair and sustainable solution to the conflict, asserting that no side would be left out, and that there would come a time when the EU would need to participate in the peace negotiations. However, some European leaders have worried that the US will make concessions to Russia and adjust security agreements with the region. President Zelensky previously said he would not accept any agreement that did not include Ukraine. The Kremlin said on February 19 that the Russian president and his US counterpart could meet face-to-face before the end of February, while highlighting the results of negotiations in Saudi Arabia. According to AFP, Reuters, TASS, Russia praises Mr. Trump for saying Ukraine started the war. Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov praised President Trump for saying Ukraine's desire to join NATO was the cause of the conflict. In my opinion, he is the first and so far the only Western leader who has publicly said that one of the root causes of the conflict in Ukraine was the previous administration's push for Kiev to join NATO. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov told the Russian State Duma on February 19. Referring to US President Donald Trump, President Trump has repeatedly blamed his predecessor Joe Biden for the conflict in Ukraine, asserting that the 3-year conflict would never have broken out if he were US president in 2022, when Russia launched its campaign. In a press conference before his inauguration in January, Mr. Trump said that the Biden administration's push to admit Ukraine into NATO had caused the conflict. Russia for years, even before Mr. Putin took office, said, "You can't have Ukraine in NATO." But the Biden administration said, "No, they should join NATO. That means Russia will see danger at the door and I can understand how they feel," Mr. Trump said. Mr. Trump also criticized Ukraine at a press conference at Mar-a-Lago on the results of US-Russia negotiations in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia on February 18, saying that Kiev should not have started the war. No Western leader has ever said that, but he has said it many times. It's a good sign that he understands our position, Mr. Lavrov said. High-level delegations from Russia and the United States met in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia on February 18. After 4.5 hours of discussion, the two sides agreed to form negotiating groups to end the conflict in Ukraine, and raise the prospects for economic and investment cooperation between the two countries if the conflict ends. Foreign Minister Lavrov said that the Biden administration had damaged the prospects for cooperation between the two countries. Now it is necessary to clean up the legacy of the Biden administration, which has done everything to destroy even the initial foundations for a long-term partnership between the two countries, he said. He affirmed that Russia could facilitate talks on security and strategic stability between the two countries.